Today Sinn Féin's launching our policy proposals on natural resources. And I suppose the broad politics underlining it is that natural resources belong to the people. They're not something that a government can give away. They're not something that a government should sell for a small price to foreign companies. They're a resource that should be used for the benefit of all of the people of the country. And what we've seen over the last number of decades is governments, either through direct corruption or through mismanagement of those resources, squandering the potential that exists to raise revenue for the state, to create jobs and to invest in valuable public services. So our policy proposals today outline 4 key areas. Obviously the most important is our natural gas, and even the most conservative estimates from the government themselves suggest that we have somewhere in the region of 420 billion euros worth of natural gas off the west coast alone, and that doesn't include other potential reserves over the south and east coast. What Sinn Féin is saying is we need a state gas and oil exploration company that would proactively invest in exploration and the production of particularly natural gas for domestic use and for export. But what we'd also do is renegotiate all existing contracts with private companies, in particular Shell in the Corrib gas field. We want to see a 51% state stakehold in any of those oil and gas fields. We also want to increase the levies and the royalties so that money can be brought in for the exchequer. The second key element is renewable resources, and again we've been outlining this in our job creation proposals and in today's natural resources proposals. We want to see a state green technologies company that would be set up within 12 months of Sinn Féin being in any future government, that would invest significant resources in job creation renewables, whether it's wind or other forms. And we'd like that company to set a target within its first 12 months of when Ireland would become self-sufficient in producing our own natural energy and to export some of that. 2 other key areas for us, of course, are forestry. One of the great ironies is that if you take a country like Switzerland that has half the land mass of Ireland, it employs 80,000 people in forestry, where here in Ireland Quilcha only employs about 1,200 people. So we'd like to see a significant investment in Quilcha, maintain it in state hands, create the jobs, but also use the natural resource of forestry in connection with the renewable energy sector as well. And the last area I'd like to talk about is fisheries. And again, I think it's one of the great tragedies of the outgoing government's EU policy, that despite Ireland having 11% of the European Union's fishery waters, we only have 4% of the stocks. There's an urgent need for a radical renegotiation of the common fisheries policy to ensure particularly Ireland's beleaguered coastline communities benefit from a natural resource that belongs to us. So what we're saying today very clearly is this: natural resources are public resources. They need to be developed in the best interest of the public in a way that's socially, economically and environmentally sustainable. Paul is now going to say a few words also on turf.
The 5th section contained within this policy document is the continuation of turbary rights for turf cutters. As we all know, peat is also a natural resource, and the issue of turf cutting has become very significant since the cessation of the derogation of the EU habitats. What we're looking for in this document and what we're proposing is the continuation of turf cutting for those turbary right holders, because as we all know, turbary rights, turf cutting has been, I suppose, a way of life, a tradition, a way of, providing fuel at a cost-effective way for generations of families in rural and urban Ireland.